Organizing is a very thankless and trying activity at times. But I think that it really just depends on how you frame and define and celebrate the victories, because I think that there are victories that we overlook every day. Right now, one of the main things that I've been working on here in Greensboro has been Thrive GSO, and it's a digital hub supported by the city of Greensboro to help returning citizens and folks who have been through the criminal justice system that are returning home to get connected with resources. If organizing didn't happen, I don't even know how society would work or exist. I think, you know, powerful people and people in influence would have killed us a long time ago. if there was no one to oppose a lot of the things that were going on, then I think, there definitely wouldn't be any balance. And without any balance, then I just don't even see how things would exist. But I think, I mean, for a long time, like most people, I think my mentality was like somebody else is gonna do it. You know, it'll be all right type mentality. But I guess when folks open your eyes and when you start paying attention and realizing that that you have to be one of those folks that is gonna do it, then I guess it changes a little bit of your mentality. Right now, I think the most critical issue that I'm working around is political corruption, and I think that it tugs at the heart of all of the issues that folks are championing, from climate change to police brutality, and a lot of those things. The fixes that we're looking for, all of those problems come through the political system, and if we're disconnected from the political system due to corruption and not being able to instruct the folks that we elect, then we can't fix the problems that we're looking to fix. Activism is anything that you can do to make a difference in people's lives. And there's definitely a lot of criticism. There's also a lot of support. And so I just try and lean into, the support more than the criticism. In my experience, the best way we can prepare youth for community engagement is just to trust them, because they're already engaged in the community more than what we know about. And like I said, everyone is an organizer.
So what I do in the community now is rely on my 40 plus years as an activist civil rights lawyer to provide assistance in organizing, educating people, and trying to use the legal system to bring about justice, mainly with the focus being on police accountability and support for our local groups, things like Black Lives Matter, to expose the wrongdoing that continues to occur from police misconduct. As we know, nationally and locally, there are some, not all, but there's some police officers that seem to engage in racist, violent conduct, from profiling to choking to tasing to fabricating charges. And there has to be accountability. There is just an outlandish amount of injustice in our community and in our nation and in our globe, but we have to be realistic, look at the big picture. There's been progress. One of the most important factors, I think, to educate people about is, despite what you may think and want to believe, the power structure will lie and cheat and manipulate. And yes, it's true that that police chief or that mayor can try to cover up. And once you can accept that those are realities, then you can begin to do this panoply of First Amendment rights that we lawyers talk about. That's protest, it's write a letter, it's demonstrate. I think including engaging in civil disobedience. For me, it was to be a real activist in a courtroom and to fight vigorously that way. Continually to be immersed in the injustice can cause you to lose hope and become fatalistic or feel that it's hopeless. That's really critical not to let that happen. For me, it's reading quotes from people that I admire. It can be, for some people, it's dancing. It could be reading poetry, taking a walk in the mountains. It really means, I think, standing back a little bit and look at that big history. Be mindful of that glorious legacy from all the different movements, the women's movement, the labor movement, the civil rights movement, the anti-capitalist movement, which I think embraces all of these movements, and just stay in that and recharge those batteries. It's essential. I always call myself an activist because I think the doing is really important. It's like democracy is a verb. You do democracy. You do love. They're not just passive things. But activism falls short, I think, because you could have a sole person being an activist. I think I want to be an organizer. I want to have the effect that it inspires and excites people, or really just touches what is already in them so that they get involved with us and we can feel that full power of the people. I think there are several ways to best prepare students to be civically engaged. I think one is get out of the way and let them be creative and rebellious and bold in their actions and not inhibit that. And a second way is help teach them the real history of struggles. Empathy is a starting point. And I also have no doubt that I feel moral outrage, and I don't want to apologize for that. It is outrageous, the unnecessary suffering and destruction that goes on. We can change that. It's a reason to give hope and optimism. So yes, I have a lot of passion, and I'd like to quote the revolutionary from Cuba, Che Guevara, that the true revolutionary is motivated by love.
Housing justice means that people have opportunity for a good place to live of their choice. As a long-term housing advocate, I'm working with about 4 or 5 different collaborations working on housing issues, substandard housing, eviction, homelessness. People say, well, you know, Greensboro is doing pretty well. And I go, Greensboro has an incredible level of collaboration and activism and striving together for justice and organizing. And we're one of the worst housing places in the country. Can you imagine how much worse it would be if we weren't working together? Greensboro is number 6 city in the whole country, and the rate of rents rising. Of course, incomes here are not rising, and the bigger the gap gets between the cost of housing and people's ability to pay for it, the more vulnerable people are to exploitation about their housing, to being forced to live in places that are not fit for human habitation, and of course, the most vulnerable people are people of color, children, elderly and disabled, and people coming out of prison, or people who have already had so many other strikes against them in their lives. I love the quote from Ella Baker in the Sweet Honey in the Rock song about we who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. And so when I get too frustrated, I go back to that and say, I can't give up because we haven't gotten there yet. We have not gotten to justice yet. And so I pick up my email or my phone and I bug people one more time, like, when are we going to actually do the things that you've agreed to do? Because I can't stand the idea of people not having a good place to live. I keep trying to brainstorm how we can prepare youth, but I am really encouraged by the level of engagement that a lot of schools encourage among their students, high school and particularly university, so that as young people get involved with some of the housing collaborations and advocacy, you can kind of see these light bulbs going on, like, oh yeah, and so that's really exciting. But when people speak up, then we have a chance.